Hey, I'm Remel London. I'm a TV and radio presenter currently on Capital Extra. I'm also a live events host and the founder of a creative platform called The Mainstream.
So Remel, I guess I first came across you about 10 years ago, and it must have been the Link Up TV interviews. And there was one outside of Westfield. It was like a Vox Pops.
Ooh, that could be anything
Yeah.
because I did that for everyone.
And I remember like the first time thinking like your approach was so different to the other women that were out there.
Yeah.
And also you were black, you were actually black, which was, I guess, quite surprising because we're thinking 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So talk us through how you got into the world of presenting.
Yeah. So I went through the really traditional route. I went to university. I studied broadcast journalism at the University of Leeds. And at uni, I realised I didn't want to be a stereotypical journalist.
Okay.
I didn't want to end up on Sky News, BBC News, which is where a lot of my peers ended up.
Right.
So I almost pretty much tore up the rule book of what we were studying, but adapted it in my own way. So yes, I knew how to film, edit, produce, direct, but I don't want to do the news. Okay. I want to have fun conversations. I want to go on the street, meet people. Music was the big passion for me. So I literally used to go to events. I'd take a camera, review it at home, put it on YouTube, and then build up just an online persona of being the girl who's out and about, interviewing people, giving you a little inside scoop. I was quite cheeky back then. Like, my reviews were like brutal. So some people liked it, some people didn't, but it definitely got people talking. And again, it was something people hadn't seen before. Like, there wasn't anyone really documenting what was happening in London nightlife. And that became my thing. So people really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And so you went to, is it Leeds?
Yes, University of Leeds, yeah.
So are you a Londoner or did you just...
Oh my God, I'm fully a Londoner, which is why my name became Remel London.
Okay.
I was pretty much just Remel at uni, but I loved talking about London. I'll be like, yeah, when I get back to London, I need to go to this rave when I'm in London. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, all you do is talk about London. And I'm like, yeah, because, it's different here in Leeds. Yeah. Like, I was really shocked at how different Leeds was. Like, people, maybe people from abroad just think everywhere in the UK is the same. No, every city has its own personality, has its own style, has its own music. Back then, funky house was like thriving in London, whereas in Leeds and Yorkshire, it was all about bass line, drum and bass. So I was like, I like it, but I miss my music. I miss my funky house. I miss my grime. And that's what I was always talking about. So it ended up having my own radio shows on like student radio, pirate radio, and all I talk about is music. And I was like, okay, this is happening in Leeds, but this is happening in London. So I was trying to be a little connector between London and Leeds, and everyone was like, oh, that girl Remel, Miss London. And then I was like, this kind of works, Remel London. And it stuck.
Okay. And you've got quite a unique name. Does it mean anything?
Remel?
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's really shameful that I have looked into it, but it means different things in different places, different countries. It's predominantly a French name, and usually it's a boy's name. Okay. So I am pretty much one of a few people have found me on Instagram and like girls, and they'll be like, "Hi, my name's Remel too." We know how rare it is to be a female Remel, but unfortunately, I don't actually remember what it means. But it's a name that I'm very proud of, which is why I always, back in the day, I always was known for being like, hey, it's Remel London, it's Remel. Like, I wanted it to stick, and people still struggle with the pronunciation.
Oh, really? Okay.
Rimmel.
All right.
Always. Yeah. It's mainly Rimmel, because it sounds like Remel London as well.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I kind of did that to myself. Right. But no, I love my name, and yeah, I'm glad that it's been able to go far and wide.
Yeah, it's very strong, and I I don't know anybody else called Remel, so the minute I hear that, obviously I think of you. So it's very much part of your brand, having such a strong independent name.
Thank you.
So in terms of, let's talk about the roles that you have. So you are a presenter for TV and radio.
Yes.
You're a voiceover artist.
Yes. Forgot to mention that. Yes.
And then you mentioned mainstream.
The mainstream.
Yeah.
So that is a platform I've created, but it's also a podcast.
Okay.
So the mainstream is all about people's journeys into the creative industry, and I didn't intend for it to be Black or minority focus, but it just so happened that I find that like Black, Asian people, or people from just minority backgrounds, they have a more unique journey into the commercial world, especially. So, for example, a lot of, for example, Mo Gilligan, he's one of the people I've interviewed on the mainstream, and he's a household name now, but I knew him 10 years before he became famous. So it's kind of like social media, YouTube sketches, but he was doing the stereotypical, like, you know, gigging around the UK. But it's only until he started making YouTube videos and TikTok, and well, not before, even before TikTok, Instagram, little shorts, that's when he got famous. So it's looking at, you know, compared to like Lenny Henry, Richard Blackwood, Mo, all different stories, and they're all Black men. But, you know, a white comedian might just be like, oh yeah, I did a few gigs and then I made it. For Black people, bit different. So that's why I wanted to focus on what's your unique journey. And it kind of inspires people like, do you know what? Yes, there's people from different walks of life who have all kind of had different experiences. And it's really interesting to hear how they made it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So are we missing anything in terms of the roles that you kind of take on? Because you're a wife, you recently...
Oh, yes. I'm married now. Yes, I'm a wife.
So how are you juggling, I guess, being a wife and your professional kind of day-to-day life?
I'm very new at being a wife. But my relationship has always been a big part of my career as well. My husband is a music producer. So even when I was talking about, I used to do radio shows at uni, he was one of the first people I interviewed because he was a funky house music producer back then. He does everything now. But back then, I was really into funky house. He was making funky house music. So he's always been there and understood that I'm a presenter, I'm an interviewer, and he encourages me all the way through my career, helps me make hard decisions. Like, he's been there through me getting the job at Capital Extra, TV shows, not getting shows, auditions. So he's literally my best friend, confidant, all those things. And we are very understanding that we're both freelance. Our timetable can be ridiculous, but we always make time for each other. So I feel like that's definitely one of my things I'm confident in moving forward. Like, no matter what, we're very understanding of each other's careers. So if he's got to do an all-nighter in the studio, okay, see you tomorrow.
And so thinking back to Remel as like a child, how different is Remel as a child to Remel as an adult?
Ooh, it's a hard one.
Are there no differences?
Probably not. I knew what I wanted. Always knew what I wanted. I would see something on TV. So, for example, watch the film Bugsy Malone. I was like, Mum, I want to be in Bugsy Malone. And she was like, okay. Like, to her, she's like, well, one day. And I'm like, no, I'm going to look in the yellow pages and look for dance classes and look for acting classes. And literally, I signed myself up. I'd call them. I'd be like, Mum, can I call them? This is like me at like 10. And I'd be like, Mum, can I call this company? And she was like, all right. And I'd be like, hi, I want to know if I can come. And they were like, maybe we should speak to your mum. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I'll tell her. I'll pass on the information later. So I always knew if I want to do something, I'm going to at least give it a go. And thankfully, my mum was really supportive of that. I don't know, because financially, she shouldn't have been supportive of it, because I was asking ridiculous things like, can we go to dance class in Muswell Hill? And I'm like, we live in Holloway, like that's not down the road. But she would let me, we'd both trek on a tube or probably not tube, my mum hated tube, trek on a bus, go 2 hours somewhere just for me to go to an hour's class, go back home. So because my mum was so encouraging of that, I was like, okay, cool. Anything I decide, make a way. So, young me and me now are very similar in the sense of like, anything I want, I'll figure it out.
And I kind of see you in the acting sphere as well.
Oh.
Is that something that you would ever get into? Because you're very charismatic.
Yes.
And you seem to just be able to just turn on the switch and just change your kind of persona and just be in the moment.
Yeah, I think the thing about acting is, and this is like a secret I probably shouldn't tell people, I hate scripts.
Okay.
I hate scripts with a passion. Like, my memory is very short.
Yeah.
So, for example, when we're on set and I'm doing like presenter links to camera, the hour before is when I'll look at the script and cram it. So I'm like, if I don't have this now, it's not going to come. Like, you know, when people say, yeah, I've had a 40-page script, I'm like, what? No, give me 30 minutes. It's in, it's out. Like, so for that reason, I've kind of shied away from anything, you know, scripted or drama-based or theatrical. But I do love being on a stage. Like, I literally come alive. So I think how I've kind of changed that is live events hosting is like my best friend. Like, you know, that's my favorite thing to do. It is, you know, there is a structure, but I'm improvising. So that's where I get to be me. And I've always said when I was younger, because I did do musical theatre, and there were times and scripts and shows, they'd be like, let's do this. And I'm like, none of these characters interest me at all. I don't want to play that, don't want to play that. So I'm like, oh, if you're just giving me a small pool of what I could be, I'm not interested. Whereas as a host, I'm myself always. So I can be as dramatic as I want or whatever. Like, you know, I've created that character, my brand. So, yeah.
So this kind of confidence that you have, where is that, or who is that come from?
I would definitely say it's my family. My family's really, really creative. So one of my cousins, she's called Ola Ince. She's a theatre director, incredible woman. She's worked at the National Theatre. She was associate director for Tina, the musical. So when we were together growing up, it was literally like performing, like in the living room. And as she was the director from very young, she's literally 3 months older than me. So we were very close, but she took that 3 months very seriously. We'd literally, like, she's set the plan for the day. Right, we're going to do this. We're going to pick this music and and then we're going to do a performance. And I'll be like, all right. So from young, we were just like, it's showtime. Let's perform. Let's create. And yeah, it's kind of trickled through all of our family. Like whenever we're together, it's like just a big social moment. And I think just having a family that's very open to like, go on, girls, do your thing. And like I said, my mum would be like, all right, if you want to go to the theatre this or drama that, I'll take you. Let's see what happens. So it was just that I don't think I ever really heard no growing up. Like, if it was like a real hard financial no, then I totally understood. But if it was like an opportunity to just like express or like explore things, or, you know, I did 1 million free taster trials. Like anything that's got a free trial, I was there. So I think that's where it was like, yeah, go on, try it. If you like it, we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it further. But it was very much like, give it a go.
It's funny, you don't really hear much of that in Black families. And I don't think in our generation, because I'm 37. And you and your
33.
Yeah. So that might be the case more so now, but I got a lot. It was way more no's than yes.
I don't know why I didn't get no's. It just wasn't a part of. I honestly didn't hear no until I entered the creative industry. And that's when I was like, whoa. Okay. Who said I can't be on TV tomorrow? It blindsided me. I was so confused. So I think I went in so confident that anything I want, I can do. Because no one had really said no. And I don't really think... I think the interesting thing is I didn't have tough conversations with my mom. Like, there weren't like, oh, it's going to be hard for you. It's going to No, she was just like, all right. okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting that I do hear a lot of people say, oh yeah, in my household, you had to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant. Like, I never had to be. Funnily enough, my auntie always talks about that.
Yeah.
She's an accountant. But like you said, our generation didn't get it as much, and now even the next generation, the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have any
Kind of roadblock.
yeah, because I can't even imagine being told what I'm going to do as my career. It was never a conversation.
Yeah.
So my mum and my granddad always said, oh, as long as you try. So I always put that to, as long as I try, I'm sure it'll work out. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your grandparents, right?
Yes.
What's your heritage?
So I'm half Nigerian and half Guyanese. So I've literally got both African and Caribbean background.
So have you been to both places?
Yes, been to both, yeah.
What's your favourite thing about Nigeria and then Ghana?
I think the best thing about Nigeria is I really enjoyed the rural side of it. So like, you know, a lot of people call it the village, a lot of people call it the countryside. I just see it as like, you see the richness of like home.
Yeah.
You know, everything is cooked fresh. Like when the last time I went to Nigeria, I lost weight. And all I did was eat pounded yam, gari, stew every day. And I was like, surely, I'm going to come back. You're going to have to roll me off the plane.
Yeah.
When I got back and weighed myself, I was like, I lost weight. It's because the food is so rich. It's so organic. It's so pure. Like, there's no impurities because someone grew it, killed it. It's fresh. So that's what I love about Nigeria. I mean, it's very similar in Guyana, but I think what I loved about Guyana as well is I think the chilled out vibes is that, you know, although it's the Caribbean, it's considered a part of the West Indies, it's in South America. So it's quite multicultural in the sense that there's Indian people there, Chinese people there, Black people there. So they all have the same Caribbean vibe. Like, yeah, we're just, you know, enjoying life. We grow our house, we grow our foods, we built our house. Yeah. Like we had so many jokes. Like again, in the countryside village, whatever you want to call it, we stayed over Christmas, and my auntie, gotta love her, we stayed at her house, and we were like, oh, auntie, what's the Wi-Fi code? And she said, who told you I had Wi-Fi? We were like, you're right. Who told us? She was like, yeah, just enjoy yourself. Like, you know, you'll find things to do. There was one day we literally sat on the porch and watched people all day. Best day of my life. I was like, yo, we're just living a simple life and it's amazing. It's so good to switch off. So that's a definite thing about Guyana. Like, you can switch off. You can remove yourself from the busy, bubbling, like, town life. And, you know, you can go into town, all that kind of stuff. But regardless, there's nice, chill vibe about it. Yeah.
And then can you cook the food? Do you speak any
We're working on it. No, do you know what? In lockdown, I learned how to make jollof rice. Right. So that was my thing. Yeah. We got some work to do.
And like we spoke off camera about friendship circles.
Yes.
And I guess you, like me, have a really kind of small, intimate circle. So what would you say is the quality that you bring to your friends? I imagine you're a funny one.
I am occasionally funny. Yeah. I'm not intentionally funny. I think what people always say about me is that, like, I'm just quite hype. I'm a cheerleader. Yeah. I'm always just like, come on, let's go for it. Da, 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 da. Like, I literally would say I'm probably the cheerleader of the group. So I wouldn't particularly say I am the leader, but I can always, I'm involved. Okay. You'll guarantee, like, you know, if we all decide on something, let's go for it full throttle. We're all going to have a good time. If someone's not feeling good, I'll probably check on them. But, like, yeah, it's, I do like to please people and, like, encourage people. Yeah. So that's definitely me.
Okay. And then, like, growing up, was there anyone who you felt or you looked at that's an epitome of what I want to do or what I want to be when I'm older?
it's cliche, but it's honest.
Mm.
Oprah Winfrey
Right.
is always going to be one of my inspirations.
Yeah.
I love how she's carved out such a genuine platform to just have great conversations.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. Like,
Yeah.
I'm all about having great conversations, introducing you to people that you probably wouldn't have known about before.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the fact that she's had the book club, now that she's got Super Soul Sundays and conversations, she's now incorporating her faith, her spirituality. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to incorporate my life into my work because I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in just like, you know, community and like looking out for our own kind of thing. And like, not to like say I don't look out for everybody, but like I really, really care about the next generation and like how we can uplift them and inspire them. So how she has done that for us, she shows us like really important leaders and speakers. Like, you know, she's had a conversation with everyone. And that's what I love. And I feel like, you know, I don't want to be pigeonholed because back in the day, I did feel like I was just the black girl that speaks to black rappers. And I'm like, okay, I can do that, but there's way more going on. And it's almost like Oprah is an Oprah. And people are like, oh, it's going to be crazy to get to an Oprah level. No, Oprah was like me one day. Like, you know, she just did local news. Biggest profile in the world. So I'm like, why can't I be the biggest profile in the world as well? So
how did kind of your industry and your professional kind of career, how did it cope over COVID and lockdowns and so forth?
Fortunately, my voice is my tool and you don't need to leave your house to use your voice. Thankfully, loads of voiceovers, radio. To be fair, our radio station didn't close. A lot of stations did. Well, when I say close, we were still allowed to come in and broadcast because they saw us as key workers because, you know, we're at least uplifting people. Newsreaders, you have to read news. You know, you can't do everything from home. But the fact that we were equipped, we could do stuff. We had mics sent home just in case. I literally recorded, I had COVID, but it was mild COVID. I literally recorded a week's worth of radio at home. And like, people don't know that, but it's like, we could do it at home. So thankfully I was able to do it. And since then, now that people know that I can do things at home, it's actually like, even before I came here, I did a voiceover at home. It's easy. I get sent scripts. I do them in my own time, send it back. Still the same fee as it was when I was traipsing into central London. So, and they're even more grateful. They don't have to pay an engineer. Like, they're like, you can do it at home.
So you've got your own studio at home?
I say studio.
Purpose-built with
Exactly. I mean, those that follow me will probably have seen the recordings under the duvet. So we make it work, but it's crazy. Like, there was a job I did for Spotify, and I remember them on Zoom being like, "Oh, like, are you gonna go into your booth?" And I was like, "Guys," I held up the duvet, and then when they got the audio, they were like, "No, this is industry sounding quality." They were like, "Where did you get your duvet from?" I was like, "Wilco." It's just a Wilco duvet, but you know, I figured out how to make it sound good. I figured out, you know, what room to do it in. Like, it was really trial and error. Like, some rooms, the acoustics are crazy. Like, you can't hide the fact that you're in a room. But I made it work.
Okay. And were there any lessons that you feel that you learned from COVID?
100%.
Okay.
Not every job you have to do.
Right.
I literally realized the power of no. I realized that not every job is progress. Like, sometimes you feel like, oh, I should do it. It'll be good. It's a good credit. It's this, it's that. It's good for my CV. Oh, come on. How long do you want your CV to be?
Sure.
Like, there's some jobs you really don't need to do. They're draining for no reason. It's not worth the hassle. Some of them, even over COVID, you know, when George Floyd was murdered, I should say, Black Lives Matter was really at the forefront of our minds. There were some organizations I realized morally, I don't want to work with you. Okay. So there was a lot of just reevaluating what I stand for, who I want to work with. And there were hard conversations that had to be had, but I'm so grateful that I was given, you know, that's the unfortunate thing about that period in time. We were empowered to be able to say, actually, I don't feel comfortable doing that anymore. So that was definitely a big change for me.
And like, of all the projects you've worked on, which would you say has been the most inspirational?
Oh, there's two events that I've done for a long time,
Right.
and I'm so grateful that they always ask me to come back. One is called Music for Youth.
Okay.
It's a prom. It's at the Royal Albert Hall,
Okay.
and I've won one of your
That was maybe before COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was way before COVID. Yeah, it's probably like 2017, 18. Okay. Yeah. Music for Youth Proms is amazing. It's all about young people from across the country, musically trained, all kinds of like levels that, you know, you'll have the big orchestras, like, you know, ensembles. Then you'll have like the young music group that's just decided that they want to create a music, you want to be in a band, like, yeah, from like rock to R&B, hip hop, you know, opera, folk. You literally see young kids thriving in music, and it's so beautiful to see. There's one group called Rubik's Cube, and they're all different abilities, learning difficulties and abilities, and I sob every time they perform because you can see how happy they are to be on that stage, and like some of them are blind, some of them are signing, and you're just like, oh my gosh. Music really is a connector for everyone. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite shows. And yeah, I've always believed that music can be really empowering for people. And then another event that I've worked with a lot is called Rocking Your Teens. So it's a young girls conference, and it's all about, again, empowering young girls. They're usually like 13 to 15 and letting them know you can have any job. Right. So they'll bring musicians, they'll bring mental health awareness coaches, they'll bring people that work in like tech and like all different jobs to just be guest speakers. And I used to host it, and they'd be guest speakers just telling them, hey, this is my story. Yeah. You could do this. And always girls leave there saying, I want to be like, we've heard them say, I want to be an engineer. And we're like, what? You hear them talk about jobs that I never would have thought of when I was that age. Yeah. So the fact that they have a space to know that, hear about it, get educated on it, like, that's always been so empowering. So those two are really, really in my heart always.
The Rocking Your Teens, is that run by
Jenny? Yes.
I mean, it's a really kind of admirable what you're doing, because as a father of two girls, like, that generation is kind of looking up to you, and you never know who you're inspiring that's going to come up, that when they make it big, they'll mention your name as being their inspiration. Yeah. In terms of, like, not to be negative, but like for me, I have like a really huge issue with authority. So like having a strict dad, even up until now, I don't react well to being told what to do, but I turn it on its head, and it benefits me in the role of a business owner.
Of course.
So are there any kind of flaws in your character that you're able to kind of turn around and be positive?
Yes, I think there have been times where I am outspoken. Yeah. And my outspokenness has got me in trouble in the sense of, like I mentioned at the start, I used to go to events and tell you everything that happened. And people are like, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, the event was rubbish. And back then I was like, oh, I didn't know if an event was rubbish. You don't publish that.
Yeah, just no thought.
You just like the rules are, if it's like a subpar event, you just don't give it a review. But I was like, no, this was what was bad about it. It could have been good. Yeah. I think you should have. And people are like, you're way too opinionated for that world. And yeah, a lot of the times I was accused of like not supporting the scene when I was pointing out flaws. Right. But I was like, you guys don't understand. I believe in the scene so much. I'm disappointed when I see negative things. Like, for example, still to this day, there was a moment at the Brit Awards where Kanye West came out and he brought out Skepta, Stormzy.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember it. Yeah, they brought out everyone. Everyone was in black hoodies. It was supposed to be a moment. Oh my gosh, he brought out everyone.
Yeah.
My problem with it was like, cool, everyone's on stage.
Yeah.
These are all artists.
Yeah.
Why is no one rapping with you?
Okay.
And that was my point. I was like, yeah, that's nice if you bring me to your event. Like, you bring me to the event, that's one thing. But why are you not sharing the mic around? Like, you know, you just brought out Skepta. You just brought out Stormzy. Don't you think we want to hear from those guys? Yeah. And people thought I was like... And there was another article or like comment that was passed around that they were called backup dancers. I never said they were backup dancers. But in the moment, there was loads of... Remel called them backup dancers. I was like, that was not me. I said it would have been nice if the guys had been given a mic and like all that kind of stuff. And in the end, the next year, Skepta was booked to do the Brit Awards. Right. So I'm like, do you see what happened there? Like, I was saying it would have been better if he was doing it. And same with Stormzy. Stormzy's gone on to do it how many times now? Yeah. I was like, it would have been a better moment if they were incorporated in the show on a performance level, not just being on stage. Because it's great that they were on stage, but we wanted to hear from them. And loads of people saw it as, Remel, you're just a hater, you're this, you're that, and da-da-da-da. And I was like, that's the first time I realised, okay, cool. What I see and what I stand for isn't always interpreted in the same way that, you know, things are miscommunicated. And from then, funnily enough, that was actually a game changer in my career. Okay. One, I decided I'm not going to be as outspoken as I need to be. Right. But two, people saw what I stood for. Okay. So it actually did elevate me. I got opportunities to speak on panels about music and the industry. So it was such a controversial bit for me, emotionally, not physically, but like, I would say at that point, my mental health was actually like impacted because people were really like, it was ended. And this was before things were viral. Like this was like, you couldn't really, I wasn't cancelled, but because that wasn't invented then. But it was like, whoa, I got a lot of comments, a lot of backlash. And I was like, oh my God, I just said.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That was 2017. So a lot of people, because it got transcribed by The Guardian.
Okay.
I did a video and the video got transcribed by The Guardian. So that's why it went everywhere. And I was like,
It's difficult for people who have no filter to then apply filter and not feel like they're selling out. Because you always want to remain true to who you are.
Yeah.
And say what your beliefs are without, I guess you clearly weren't trying to offend anybody.
Yeah.
But you just made a comment as you saw it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people should be, vilified for that.
Yeah.
Even with the whole situation in America with Trump and all these kind of comments, I prefer when people say what's on their minds. So you know where you stand with them.
Definitely.
And then you make the decision to either remove yourself from the situation or just pledge your allegiance to them.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of like the future for Remel, what is that? What will we expect to see from you?
One of my goals is to have my own production company. Right. I'd love to just create incredible programs, but also experiences. I love events. Okay. And as much as I don't want to be an event planner, everything I do, I like people to feel like, wow, I'm so glad I went. So if it's a TV show, wow, I loved going there. I loved being in the audience. I loved being a guest. I want everyone to enjoy watching journeys, experiences, learning something new. So that's why when I go to like the Royal Albert Hall, it's amazing because you can tell that this is their first time at the Royal Albert Hall. Right. So that's an experience. Yeah. Or when I host a live, like one of the things that I do with the mainstream is a live panel. So live Q&A. But I've recorded them as well. So if you miss it, you can listen back and then you're like, oh my gosh, I definitely need to go to the next one because that sounded amazing. So I like to create moments and like, I don't like just talking for the sake of talking. Like, let's make sure someone takes something away. And that's what I want to create moving forward. So independently, both on a national, global scale, that's the plan. But it will always be, anything I do, I want it to be because I actually love it and I'm passionate about it. Not just, some people just do jobs for the sake of it. But like I said, I learned the power of no. If it doesn't feel right, what's the point? If it's not progress, or I won't lie, there was some leading up to the wedding. There were a few jobs we just had to do. But no, I really want to enjoy my job for as long as possible. So yeah.
I mean, I kind of see you as one of the women getting an MBE or OBE in the next kind of 10 years time, because I've seen how your career has progressed, because even your earlier YouTube videos from I think 10, 11 years ago to the level that they are right now.
Yeah, cringe, but yeah.
No, I guess it would be cringe for you, but as an outsider, we appreciate the story, we appreciate your rise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, good luck to your success in achieving what you want to achieve in life.
Thank you.
And we're just going to wrap up the kind of interview with just some light-hearted AOB.
Okay. I'm not very good at Quickfire, so give me a few minutes.
Let's see how it goes. The first one, Coming to America 1, Coming to America 2.
Coming to America 1, of course. They tried, but no.
All right, how about Beyonce or Whitney?
Oh, that's hard. But I am more of a generation of Beyonce, so I'll give it to Beyonce.
Are you iPhone or Android?
iPhone always.
Right. Lifetime supply of makeup or lifetime supply of hair products?
Hair products.
Okay.
Lockdown was hard.
R&B or Afrobeats?
R&B.
A well-paid job in a toxic environment or a low-paid job and it feels just like heaven every day?
I'll take the low-paid job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fish and chips or rice and peas and jerk chicken?
What? Nah, that's crazy. I actually have moments like where I really crave a fish and chips, but depends who made the rice and peas and jerk chicken then.
Right.
But I'll go for rice and peas and jerk chicken.
Okay. The Apprentice or Dragon's Den?
Apprentice.
Why?
Oh, I don't know why.
Just the format.
I actually watch Apprentice more than Dragon's Den.
Right.
I think I like the trials involved in Apprentice because it's like, oh, could I do that?
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Cool. A romantic holiday in Paris or honeymoon in Maldives?
Honeymoon in Maldives.
All right. And last one, heels or trainers?
I actually don't know. I couldn't live in heels, but I love the feeling of putting on a good pair of heels. So heels.
Heels, cool.
Yeah.
Well, Remel, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to hear your story, and we'll include all of your social media links within the description below.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be able to sit down with you. We're a beautiful gown. We love feeling beautiful, so thank you so much.